You're listening to the Dynamic Thinking Project podcast. This is episode 3, and today's topic is the world real, and what is real? Hey everyone, Adam Muselli here. Welcome to the Dynamic Thinking Project podcast. You can also follow me on Twitter and Facebook. All links are in the show notes and website, themindtechinstitute.com. It's all one word. And now, let's get started. Before we start this episode, there is a quote by Frank Zappa, which is really helpful for this episode. The quote says, "Your mind is like a parachute. It doesn't work if it's not open." So, for this episode, let's give a chance to that parachute to open and work, because we'll be diving a little more into our minds and tickle our brain with a question: is there such a thing called reality? And if yes, what is it? Well, it sounds like an abstract question, so let's get more specific. Or as we say in neuro-linguistic programming NLP, let's chunk down a little. Here's a more specific question. Where is your hand? Yes, I know it's an easy question, and I know you should be able to answer it easily too. But how do you know? I mean, how does anyone know anything? You might say, well, I know where my hand is. I'm looking at it right now, or I can touch it with my other hand. I can feel it. It's right here, and that's good. You're using your senses, and your senses are a great way to learn things. And as we also call that in NLP and hypnosis, representational system. In fact, we have way more than the usual 5 senses that we are consciously use or technically aware of. For example, your kinesthetic sense, which is basically feelings. Proprioception, which is an ability, enables you to know where your limbs are without having to look at them. And that's what the police in some countries evaluate during a sobriety test to check how many drinks you had. And you know, when they ask you to walk on a straight line to see how sober or drunk you are. So proprioception allows you to tell where your fingers and arms and head and legs is all in relation to each other without having to look at them or even touch them or touch other things. We certainly have way more than the 5 senses, such as proprioception, thermoception, which is the feeling of temperature, nociception, which is the feeling of being hurt, equilibrioception, which is the perception of balance or acceleration, and it's related to cavities containing fluid in the inner ear. That's why when you do a couple of cartwheels or when you whirl around, you feel you're getting dizzy. That's because of the fluids in your inner ear is moving around with you too, as well as the debatable ones such as the extrasensory perception or ESP, or as what commonly known as the sixth sense. But they are not perfect. They can be optical illusions, audio illusions, temperature sensation illusions, even tactile illusions. For example, some mirrors make you look bigger or smaller than what you really are. It's freaky and cool in the same time. It's a little humbling because it shows the limits of the accuracy of our senses and how we can easily be deceived. I mean, you should see what we do during hypnosis training. The only tools we have to get what's out there is in us. The philosophy of knowledge, the study of knowing, is called epistemology. And as Plato said, that the things we know are things that are true, that we believe, and that we have justification for believing. Those justifications might be irrational, or they might be rational. They might be based on evidence. However, there are things that we can know without requiring proof. Things that we can know as true by reason alone. But how do you know? I mean functionally. How do you know? Where is knowledge biologically in the brain? Or what are memories made out of? We are a long way from being able to answer that question completely, but research has shown that memories don't exist in the brain in a single location. Instead, what we call a memory is likely made up of many different complex relationships all over the brain between lots of brain cells and neurons. So let's say, for example, if I were to go into your brain and cut out those cells, I could make you forget your first kiss, or could I make you forget where your fingers are? Only if I cut a lot of your brain, because memories are not just stored in one relationship. They are stored all over the brain. The events leading up to your first kiss are stored in one network. Many senses were engaged, of course, from the way it felt to the way it smelled in different networks, all added up together, making what you call the memory of your first kiss. Well, how many memories can you fit inside your head? What is the storage capacity of the human brain? Yes, some people have a floppy disk brain, a capacity of 1.44 megabytes if you remember those, or if you were born in the 80s or 90s. The best way we can do is just a rough estimate by giving the number of neurons in the brain involved with memories and the number of different connections a single neuron can make. Paul Reber at Northwest University estimated that we can store the digital equivalent of about 2.5 petabyte of information. That's the equivalent of recording a TV channel continuously for 300 years. That's a lot of information. And that's a lot of information about skills you can do and facts and people you've met and things in the real world. The world is real, right? How do you know? To a hypnotized person, an onion tastes like an apple with a simple pre-suggestion, and he or she fully believes that taste is real, of course, in his or her world while they're hypnotized. But does the onion really taste like an apple? So do we or will we ever know true reality? Or are we stuck in a world where the best we can do is be almost true? Can science or reason ever prove that your family, your friends, your hands, your fingers actually exist beyond your mind and you don't just live in a matrix? No. Your mind is all that you have. Even if you use a telescope or microscope or particle accelerators, the final decision for all that information is you. You are alone in your mind, in your own brain, which technically makes it impossible to prove that anything else exists beyond you. And that is called the egocentric predicament. Everything you know about the world out there depends on and is created inside your brain. And that what Charles Sanders Peirce called the phaneron. The world as filtered through our senses and bodies, the only information we can get. If you want to speak with certainty you live in, that is you react to and remember and experience your phaneron, not reality. The belief that only you exist and everything else, food, the universe, your fingers, your friends, are all figments of your mind is called solipsism. There is no way to convince a solipsist that the outside world is real. And there is no way you can convince someone who doubts that the universe wasn't created just 3 seconds ago along with all of our memories. That's a frightening realization that we don't always know how to deal with. There is even the matrix defense, and That is the term applied to several legal cases of a defense based on the Matrix films, where reality is actually a computer simulated coded reality, and that the real world is quite different from what reality is perceived to be. For example, in 2002, Lynn Ansley, she shot and killed her landlady. She argued that she believed she was in the Matrix and her crimes are not real. And by using the Matrix defense, she was found not guilty by reason of insanity, but not as crazy or mentally ill, but as the opposite view is just way more healthy and common. And that is called realism. Realism is the belief that the outside world exists independently of your own phaneron. Rocks, flowers, and stars would continue to exist even if you were not around to experience them. But you cannot know realism is true. All you can do is just believe. This reminds me of my old cat. Cats do not understand keyboards, but they know the keyboards are a fun place to be around. It's a great way to get the attention of human. They are warm and exciting, surrounded by noise and flashing lights. Plus, cats love to get their sense on whatever they can, a mark of their existence. Well, we are not that much different, except instead of keyboards, we have the mysteries of the universe. We will never be able to understand all of them. We won't be able to ever answer every single question, but walking around in those questions, exploring them, diving in our minds, and tickling our brain thinking about them is fun. And it feels good because if the world and reality is just your own phaneron, so as your troubles and worries, nothing really exists beyond your mind. We live in a three-dimensional world or reality which allows us to see only a very tiny window of what is reality out there. So don't close your mind because you can only see a tiny window in your third-dimensional world, because you'll be missing out on lots of things you're not aware of, even in your third-dimensional reality. You will be, as Einstein explained, a bedbug live in your mattress thinking the whole universe is your mattress. And without even knowing or being aware of the fact that the bedbug is so tiny, can't even see you with its own eyes, even if it tries to. So it's up to you how open-minded you choose to be, or how little and tiny eyes you choose to have. And certainly, we don't know what we don't know. And as I always say, never stop to wonder. I think we can end it at this for now, as we have covered the major point about this topic. And once again, if you would like to study and become a fully qualified hypnotherapist, neurolinguistic programming, NLP, life coach, or even a counselor, now you can study all that totally online. All you have to do is visit mti.edu.au or themindtechinstitute.com, and you will find all these courses along with many other courses once you click on the online courses tab. All our diplomas and advanced diplomas are accredited and recognized worldwide. And for more information, or can be found online, themindtechinstitute.com. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, you can email me. The email is on our website, themindtechinstitute.com. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Till next time, take care, and you have a good weekend.